Good afternoon, Andy. How's everything going this week?
Hi, Tom. I'm just pulling your faces now. You know, when you start these things, and you go, oh, it started. It was like
Yeah.
that yesterday. Yesterday, have I told you about it? I was involved with a thing yesterday called Revs Limiter on Facebook, and a guy called Adam Gompertz, who was actually a genuine reverend. He's the chaplain for Bicester Heritage, actually. He was trying to promote, he was doing a really good job of promoting Mission Motorsport that gets veterans into cars and the mechanics of cars, and gives them a purpose and retrains them and provides skills and skills training and stuff. So Mission Motorsport, we're getting some donations yesterday. You can look them up. Hashtag Mission Motorsport will get you there. And Adam Gompertz on Facebook had this event called Revs Limiter, and it was 2 days worth. We're talking 10 till 5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. That was just for reference, that was the 16th and 17th of May and 2020. And it's basically 15-minute slots with people like Vicky Butler Henderson, Fuzz Townsend was on there, Paul Calland from Salvage Hunters, I was going to say Car SOS, Salvage Hunters Classic Cars. He was on there for 15 minutes on both days doing Q&As and stuff like that. Loads of different people, owners of different varieties with different cars, spent the 2 days. Every 15 minutes was a live video, and I flew by the seat of my pants and I did a 15-minute live video on the Iltis. But yeah, it was a good 2 days, and I think he's going to do it again for sure. It worked out really well, packed with lots of different people from different walks of life. There were some snide comments about they're all basically rich people with showing off their expensive toys, but we had iDriver Classic, who Steph was showing off her Morris Marina 5-door, and so yeah, it was bits and pieces for everybody really. So that was a good crack over the weekend. I mean, I only found out about it I think Thursday, and then for some reason I ended up offering myself to try it out on Sunday with a 15-minute slot. So yeah, so it was good. I've been rummaging around. I've got some things to show you. I've got to be rummaging around with lots of different
Just
stuff.
quickly on the Revs Limiter as well, I'm pretty sure if you log into Facebook and search for it, the videos are there as well, so you can watch them retrospectively as well.
I think it's more accessible on a laptop, on a desktop computer, because I think it's hard to find the videos on the Facebook page via mobile. But yeah, on the desktop, it's quite easy to find them, and they're all there, so you can watch them. They're going to stay there as well. So they're really good. Really nice 15-minute chunks of people with the cars and lots of different things. It's hard to go into everything, but check it out. It's really cool.
Definitely good way to spend some time.
And you can imagine things like that. If something like that happens on a regular basis, it keeps people going. And it is, we've talked about before how tricky it is to get out of this in terms of classic cars and hobbies and stuff. But let's not dwell on that too much.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I've been digging around at the weekend. I've found my 1991 VW motoring mug.
Oh, fantastic.
Produced before you were born, I think, in glorious chrome yellow.
Not quite. I'd have been 4. So there you go.
Brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, let's just cut that. A few interesting things. I've been digging around as well as the mug. I found this magazine. It's Motor Magazine. Just see the cover there.
Yeah.
And Motor Magazine from March 1982.
No, that was before I was.
We've got an insert which we'll show now. Yeah, but it wasn't. I was around anyway. So we cut from that to the image, and you can see in the image there's quite a famous person holding this very same magazine. Okay, and it's as you can see, I'll try and replicate it a little bit. It's basically Harrison Ford dressed as Han Solo on the set of Return of the Jedi at Elstree Studios, and he's actually thumbing through a copy of Motor Magazine.
That's very cool.
And no idea what section you'd be looking at. There's a nice Toyota Celica
You'd imagine he'd be a Celica person, I think.
Sorry?
You imagine he'd be a Celica person, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering. There was an article by who's this guy? Peter Drawn, well-known journalist, about a Jaguar XJS convertible. I think it could have been that.
Maybe.
In fact, I did ask Peter Drawn. I asked him, and I said, "Is there any? Was it actually set up that Harrison Ford, dressed as Han Solo, would be posed holding a copy of Motor magazine?" And of course, back then in 1982, some of these magazines didn't really have marketing people like they do now. And he doesn't think it was posed by anybody, except it was just a moment of Harrison Ford on set with a magazine there lying around, and he was flicking through it. So there's some nice articles in there he might have been looking at. But this is a copy. It's the 27th of March, 1982.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so I managed to dig that out. It's quite an interesting thing. The other thing I was thinking about was we were kind of off camera. We were talking about car culture, and it keeps cropping up that this car that I've got, the VW Iltis, was actually basically it's a military vehicle. It was built for the military, but then used in motorsport, and also they did a small run of civilian models. And the last one I owned, because I owned one previously about 15 years ago, was a full-on military spec. So it's basically it was
basically that.
full-on, yeah.
Brilliant.
So now, there's that thing about originality and stuff, and should I keep it as a military spec vehicle or not? And I decided this time round to try and go civilian. So there's lots of little rare accessories I've been purchasing and scouring the eBay ads for. So I've got some things to add on to it to make it more civilian. Like I've changed the colour of the hood, for example. And it's one of the things I wanted to get away from is that if you own a military vehicle, like a Land Rover Defender, Series 3, lightweight, or whatever, like tank, as if anyone's got one of those, you kind of, at car shows, you tend to be pushed in a corner with people that kind of dress up and think they are, bombardiers or corporals and some armed force, SS, whatever. You get these kind of communities of people that are into the dressing up stuff, and I'm not really into the dressing up. I'm into the vehicles, and to try and get away from that, I'm quite happy with the decision I made, because I'm kind of, this thing about car culture is you belong in different camps, don't you?
Yeah.
We've all got that passion for, there's a common thing, which is 4 wheels or 3 wheels or 2 wheels, whatever it might be. And sometimes it's like with Volkswagens, it's air cooled or water cooled or a mix of both. You can have culture which is about the period of time that you like your cars from, the 50s, the 60s, the Austin Rover stuff, the German stuff, the American cars, all that kind of thing. And I think it's kind of, a lot of it is about nostalgia, reliving the past. It could be thinking about the technology that was around at the time the car was built and experiencing what somebody would have experienced in that time. So it's a bit of social history as well. I mean, we don't always get involved in that kind of discussion, obviously, because we kind of just buy a car. But there is an interesting thing about wanting to be part of something and being part of an owners club, or to be in the scene. The VW scene, for example, we talk about scene tax, where VW buses become very expensive very quickly as the more people want them and see them in popular culture. And but yeah, it's I was quite divisive. Sorry, it was quite divisive, I think, to own a military vehicle, or a vehicle that was built as an off-road vehicle for the military. And I'm kind of wanted to be away from that. So Volkswagen also decided the same thing. And actually, when they produced the Iltis, I found this, again, it's another eBay purchase. In German, this brochure for the VW Iltis it says for young people. And what they've done is they've made it out to be a beach buggy. So essentially what they're trying to sell it as is something for, the farmer's daughter who's doing to her horses, as is depicted in some of these pictures. or for going down to the beach, or just having a good time. And that's what they did. So Volkswagen had that idea. They wanted to try and change the market, go for a civilian kind of market with the Iltis, and that's what they came up with. But yeah, it is funny. Like I was thinking about it yesterday with the revs limiter, that we tend to be from different angles, and there are certain things that bring people together, and certain things that divide people as well within the classic car world. And again, we were talking the other week about whether something should have patina or patina,
Yep.
or it should be restored. Those arguments are kind of going on all the time. The newest car culture is about electric classic cars.
Yeah.
And that's something else we've got to deal with in the future, is about, whether we go that route or not. And there are people that will say that's fine and people that say that's not fine. But at the end of the day, I think what some of this lockdown showing is that, and what the weekend showed with Revs Limiter, is that we can come together as a community and find common ground quite a lot of the time. But yeah, are you aware of any kind of divisiveness between car cultures, or prejudice between different groups of people with different vehicles? Have you come across anything in your travels or car shows that sticks out where you thought, they're shoved in a corner and they've always got that plot, they've always got the big marquee? Have you noticed anything yourself?
Not so much like absolute divisions in terms of, this group's here, this group's there, but every now and again there's just little snide comments maybe, or little bits of like, that you don't want that on that car, that's wrong, or this wasn't right for this period. And what I think sometimes isn't appreciated is that each car belongs to the individual, and they have that there for certain reasons. And I think sometimes people are so fixed on what they think is right that they sort of miss why other people do it differently. I'm not saying it's always the case. Most people I come across at shows and events and things like that are absolutely brilliant and great to talk to, but every now and again you do just hear a little comment or get told something, you just think, well, it doesn't matter, it's my car or it's your car, it doesn't really matter. But that's just my view of it.
I think it's like anything, isn't it? It's almost like a mirror to society, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you get a showground full of cars, and it's the same thing, you'll get prejudice anywhere in some form. And sometimes it comes out in a nice way, sometimes it comes out in a kind of a negative way that you perceive that might not be real, actually. And there's a bit of banter about, have you come in that then, or is that your thing? What you bought that for? And that kind of sort of that kind of talk. But certainly, if you turn up in something poverty spec, so if you bought a 4-door 1976 Ford Escort Mark II, would it have been? With steel wheels, popular plus version, with really basic engine, are you going to be frowned upon in a sea of performance cars? And probably not, because people don't see that anymore.
Well, like you were saying just then, that really speaks to me. And again, it's the social history side of things as well. I love stuff that's poverty spec because it's showing what the person down the street would have driven at the time, and I absolutely love that. Speaking of banter, so to speak, when I had the midget, I used to get it quite a lot because it's quite tatty, rubber bumpered, it made noises it shouldn't, but midgets do. And I think a lot of the time it is well-meaning a lot of the time, and sometimes you just have to have that filter and think, actually, he's only taking the mickey, it's all right, rather than take any offence to it or think they're being serious with it.
Yeah. And I think my dad had 2 Avengers that were company cars. I think one was a 2-door Avenger and the other one was a 4-door Avenger. And I think he had an Escort Popular, I think it was. I can even remember the registration number, actually. PHG26P, I think it was, in white. But yeah, a lot of Volkswagens I've had I've had a few Mark 1 Golfs, and I've always gone for the poverty spec and had the skinny wheels, the steel wheels with center caps and that kind of stuff, because they tend to be rarer these days than the alloy wheels that are available. Because everybody aspires in the car world, like with property, everybody aspires to sort of go up to some other level, and that aspiration always ends up in alloy wheels or upgrades of the radios, the stereos from radio cassette or 8-track, whatever it might be, CD players. Everybody aspires to that. So the original stuff, the radio gets chucked, the wheels get chucked, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, in some ways, that's why I like the Iltis, and we're going to come on to a bit of a restoration update on the Iltis in a second. But with the Iltis, that's what I found with that. It's absolutely simplicity. It's just about function. So it's basically function over form. So the whole thing is just built for purpose, nothing else, nothing more, no creature comforts. Just it's just a vehicle for carrying people from A to B in a certain way. In fact, the NATO specifications for it were that it had to ford in water up to 60 centimeters. It had to do carry a load up a hill at 10 kilometers per hour minimum speed, but it had to advance up a hill consistently and get through mud, etc., etc. So there's definitely a purpose behind it, and then everything else just fulfilled that purpose, nothing else. And I think a lot of that's with cars, and I think it's great to sort of understand the designer's perspective. Why did they do that? Why did they put that there? But yeah, I mean, I think certainly I'm not really clued up well on Austin Rover cars, but if you just think of the Allegro, the lines Allegro, and you think of the original drawings, if you can never see the original drawings by Harris Mann of the vehicle, and you think about what it originally was going to look like, and then what actually ended up as coming off the production line, they're quite different. Not necessarily one better than the other, but certainly the original drawings look really nice. It's a really nice looking car, quite sleek, but they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So in the end, the factory won, not the designer. So yeah. So should we go to an update on the Iltis?
Yeah, let's do that.
Hi there, bit of an update on the VW Iltis. So it's registered and everything else, but the problem is that at the moment is because of lockdown, the DVLA aren't processing any change of historic tax or anything like that, so I'm waiting for that in the post. So although it's registered and running and everything, I've got to wait for historic tax before I bother putting it on the road again. I've not really done any miles in it yet, to be honest. A few things I've done recently. I got this little part here. And this bit here is an original civilian model of these. It's an interior light for one. It's new old stock. It's actually Hella, fitted to Ferraris and fitted to Invercars as well on the dashboard. So that, if I try and show you, that will go like that on the dashboard. Another thing I've done recently is I've added, let's see if you can see it, this mono speaker, which is again civilian spec for these, and a radio which is period for this car as well. A few of the other add-ons I did on the Iltis where I added some Type 3 VW Type 3 fastback squareback accessory headrests which just slot over, so they're period sort of, but just give a bit more support really. Now my big project has been these doors. Now I've changed the colour and put a new roof on this vehicle, so there's a brand new roof, and I've refurbed the hood frame as well for it, and the roof is sand colour, which is a civilian spec, because I was trying to civilianise it rather than keeping it all military. Done that before. Got a bit fed up with it, to be honest. So because it's the vehicle's not perfect, it's got all the bits with it, but I needed the new hood anyway, so I thought I'd be brave and change everything. So these doors have actually been painted. So these doors are original VW doors for this vehicle, and I've got a few sets of them actually. But recently I've just had this one. This is a brand new door. There's a company still making them in Germany, so it's a brand new door which I'm going to spray paint. And I've also got another door which is all prepped for spray painting as well, and those doors will obviously fit on the front of the vehicle. They have opening windows, and the glass on that is Perspex sort of plexiglass. That is an opening window with a zip. Of course, they fill the gaps there. So that's a job to do. Another thing which is happening soon is I have a new nozzle for the jet wash, for the windscreen washers, jet wash. I wish. So that's going to go on there, and yeah, these things I did MOT it without the washers working, so they are working now. Just need a new nozzle, and if you fold the windscreen flat as they do on these, then you can MOT without having the washers working. Something I'm quite proud of is a few weeks ago. These are absolutely knackered and military green, so these have been spray painted black. So I've done those. Interesting fact about these, well, as interesting as things get, is that these are actually metal, and they're similar design to what you find on vans, Type 25 vans, and also on VW Caddies. But they are different because they are metal, not plastic. So these are 183 VW Iltis only. Yeah, I've got some very stylish Mexican blankets, because I fitted a rear seat and seat belt in the back. Now I've got two seats, got another seat which is over here, so I've got another seat available to put on the car at some point, and just needs tidying up really, that. But yeah, I think eventually I'm probably going to paint the thing black to match the motorsport versions. All the motorsport versions of these are actually, they're all actually military spec off the production line. And then what they did, they painted them black, put new carburetor, different carburetor. I can't remember the spec of the carburetor. And they also changed the camshaft on these as well. So yeah, so they're a bit more souped up. I think originally these are 75 brake horsepower, and I think they managed to get something like 110 brake horsepower, maybe a little bit more out of them. 110 maybe, to be honest, something in the back of my head says it was about 150. But anyway, they were a lot quicker for the Paris-Dakar rally. But to be honest, they are built like a tank, and really substantial. The way they're built, so structurally you don't want to be caught in an accident with one of these facing you, that's for sure. Okay, so that's a quick update on the VW Iltis, and hopefully get the doors done and have all four doors when it's ready to go on the road, when the DVLA get back about the tax, and it'll be free to use on the road, MOT'd of course, and I'll be able to use it again. Not for any meets though, so one day soon, hopefully. Bye for now.
So it looks like there's good progress being made there, Andy, on the Iltis.
Yeah, it's all right. You know what I did the other day? So I always digress, and I fell over yesterday. I banged me. I got basically cut open my head, so I had blood pouring from my head, and then I've got a gash on my knee. I badly sprained my foot, and I've been on crutches for the last four or 5 weeks, off and on. And knackered my knuckles when I was trying to undo a. Anyway, everything's just been falling apart recently. So some of the little jobs I've been trying to do are waiting for basically fingers to heal or feet to heal, all that kind of stuff. So it's gradual, but yeah, the postage costs from Germany are costing me a little bit too much, but yeah.
Got there. Just quickly as well, you mentioned before about remembering reg numbers on old cars. Do you ever look them up and just check if they're still alive, they're taxed, MOT'd or sawned, that kind of thing? Because I make a habit of that.
Yeah, I do sometimes. And one tip that somebody gave me is if you type in the reg number into Google, it will actually read number plates on photographs, and it sometimes comes up with your old car or something similar you might not expect. I know I've done that before, and it does provide some surprises sometimes. But yeah, I've done it a couple of times, and unfortunately it tends to be quite sad because you end up finding out that that vehicle is no longer. So rest in peace, whatever it might be.
Saving grace is one there's one midget my dad had, the 1976 in black, and he sold that before I was born, but that's still alive, which is good to know.
All right.
But all the cars that we grew up in, it's a Montego estate with the 2 seats in the boot that were facing the wrong way. I looked that up a while ago. That's gone. So quite a few memories in that as well. So
Just a quick diversion on that. Do you know what they're called with the seats facing back?
no, am I going to learn
They're
something?
I think it's an American term. I think not from the UK, because basically it's a popular American thing to do in station wagons. But it's called the way back. So if you have a station wagon and it has a way back, it's basically you've got seats way back facing outwards. So it's known as a way back option. So if you ever see that facing outwards, it's called a way back.
That used to be my spot in the boot, and I used to fall asleep and then onto the seat next to me, and then when I'd wake up, the car behind us would just get the shock of their life. It was brilliant. So I frightened many a driver doing that.
Yeah, was it Volvos and Saabs had the same kind of deal, didn't they, in the 70s? There's quite a lot of that going around where you pull them up out of the floor. Although when I've seen the Saab version of that, it's kind of, it's not on the 9.6. They do look a little bit dodgy in terms of build quality. If you get anybody running into the back, you're not for this world very long.
No, I don't think you'd see it much anymore, if at all.
No, it'll just be
Yeah.
The last thing that can go through your mind will be the radiator of Ford Granada or something, literally going through.
Literally, yeah. On that lovely thought.
Yeah, that's it.